What's going on, and welcome to Joe's Geek Show, the video series where we talk comics, and it is here. It has finally arrived. We are on The Flash, issue 800, a monumentous issue that is also a 5-story anthology. How is it collectively? Let's take a look. And the first story, titled Central City, is written by Jeremy Adams with art by Fernando Pasarin, inks by Eau Claire Albert, with colors by Matt Erms, and letters by Rob Lee. And this story is mainly about a table of villains, each one sharing their story about why Central City is the worst place to be a villain due to The Flash. There is of course a skeptic among them, and thus the stories detail what The Flash has done with the likes of villains such as putting Condiment King out in the desert, and throwing both the Joker and his gas out of the city. There was even one incident where the Flash chased a dimensional traveler across the various planes of time in order to retrieve a lollipop he had stolen from a child. The skeptic still doesn't quite believe it though, saying he just robbed a bank and everything's fine. And it's at that moment a knock comes to the door, with it being none other than Wally West, the Flash. And this first story, I think, is pretty fun. It's a story that demonstrates not only how protective Wally is of Central City, but just how well protected Central City is in general. Because not only is Wally fast enough to deal with effectively almost any problem that crosses his path, there's also the added inclusion of Wally's family, such as Irene J, aka Thunderheart and Surge. And then you have other members of the Flash family involved too, like Kid Flash. Sometimes there's Impulse with Max Mercury. You also got Jay Garrick and Barry Allen. I mean, dang, there's probably more superheroes just in Central City than probably anywhere else in the DC universe. And like he's done in the past, Adams really captures that fun and energetic quality that I like about Wally. Because he's not only dispatching his foes in funny ways, but even the way he deals with bigger threats like the Joker releasing his gas and just kind of yeeting them out of the city is like, you know, go back to Gotham. And just overall demonstrates that he acts accordingly based on the situation. Particularly when the discussion comes up about the Rogues, because it's stated that one of the craziest things about the Rogues is that even though, yes, they're villains, they still have a code of honor, and Wally knows them so well that he can sometimes make them feel bad about being bad guys. And with all of these elements mixed together, it's easy to understand why the people of Central City love the Flash. And the second story, titled The Max in the Mirror, is written by Mark Waid with art by Todd Knock, colors by Matt Erms, and letters by Rob Lee. And this story takes a look at Impulse, who wakes up to find both Wally West and Max Mercury trapped in a mirror dimension, of which time is of the essence as they are quickly disappearing. The two experienced speedsters try to guide Bart on how to properly handle the situation, but he keeps acting before the instructions are complete and ends up doing things like knocking Mirror Master out and breaking the mirror gun, which makes the situation worse since they need both him conscious and the gun to reverse the process. But Bart still acts quickly, managing to fix the mirror gun, charge it, and free Wally and Max just in time. And I'll say, Mark Waid, he's still got the talent to write a good Flash Impulse story, especially because he's putting this one in between issues 6 and 7 of the Impulse series. It's like he just stepped right back into the role and is like, how did I do this before? Oh yeah, this is how it's done. And I felt that. I felt like I was transported straight back to the 90s. Like all of the goofiness surrounding Bart's actions as well as Wally's reactions to Bart, because it's a story that reminds me of how Wally reacted the first time he met Bart. Specifically because Bart was, well, so impulsive, he never listened to anybody, he never took instructions, he always just acted without a thought's hesitation because, you know, one, he thought he had all the answers, and two, because he was raised in a video game and he really didn't have a concept of death. But still, Wally's reactions were just peak hilarity in this, as even when he's trapped in the mirror dimension, he's like reaching out like he wants to choke the life out of Bart. Max just like holding him back. Like, even though we know Wally's not going to be able to reach through the mirror to get Bart, it's still a funny panel to look at. And of course, stepping into the mind of Bart with, you know, his little thought bubbles and just that picture of how he thinks Wally is being right now, where we just see, like, you know, a little Flash in a diaper crying. Mark Waid's story is overall a blast from the past that makes for one fun read. And this brings us to the next story, titled Flash Family, which is written by Joshua Williamson with art by Carmine Di Giarmendencio, colors by Ivan Placencia, and letters by Rob Lee. And this third story, through Wally's narration, is all about Barry and Iris as the two go out on a special date once a month. Wally believes it's to the same restaurant they had their first date at, but we soon realize that using the cosmic treadmill, Barry and Iris go into the future to spend time with their kids, the Tornado Twins. They do everything from going on picnics to fighting villains, which sadly always ends with Barry and Iris's departure. Upon returning to the present, of which they've only been gone mere minutes to the West family, Barry and Iris invite Wally and Linda along, of which they head out as one big family. And how was Joshua Williamson's return to Barry Allen? I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed the fact that Wally got to narrate the story, and provide good context to what we were seeing on the page as Barry and Iris are interacting with their kids in the future. The story does good to establish the joy and sadness that Barry and Iris feel whenever they get to go into the future to see their kids, but also inevitably have to come back. And I think it presents a good juxtaposition to how Wally and Linda's relationship is as compared to Barry and Iris. Because Wally and Linda, they don't have to time travel to see their kids. Their kids are already here. And I mean, it's a little bittersweet, but it does end on a positive note because the entire family's together, and that's nice. That's nice. And, at some point we know Barry and Iris are, you're gonna get those kids anyway, one way or another. One way or another. Unless these two are from a timeline they can no longer get to, which is why they don't just go ahead and have them, I guess, because, the timeline's been changed so many times, and that maybe if they actually have kids now, it'll fully erase those ones from history. Timelines. Multiverse. And this brings us to the fourth story, Blitzback, which is written by Geoff Johns with art by Scott Collins, colors by Luis Guerrero, and letters by Rob Lee. And this story is not only the return of Geoff Johns to The Flash, but also the character Hunter Zolomon, aka Zoom, who when we last saw him had tapped into the Forever Force, but now sits in the Speed Force. While there, he recounts his experience as a profiler and wonders how everything went so wrong, how Eobard Thawne knew his accident would lead him to becoming Zoom. And it's in these memories of joy and pain that Hunter awakens and breaks out of the Speed Force with a more steeled resolve that he needs to be a greater villain in order to make Wally a better hero. Zoom has returned. Yes! That is what I'm talking about right there. I mean, even though it's short, it's always great to see Geoff Johns return to, these characters and whatnot, because I will say that of all the Flash writers, I think Geoff Johns does villains the best. Geoff manages to bring so much energy to it that, I'm just feeling my heart pumping reading the pages. And it's also nice because it explains what happened to Hunter after the events of Death in the Speed Force. Where at the end of that, Barry managed to show Hunter that, hey, Thawne kind of orchestrated everything and led up to you becoming Zoom in the first place, which did throw Hunter back a little bit and sort of make him reanalyze the situation as with what happened here in this story. But as Hunter explains, as he quiets down, he can hear the Speed Force talk to him and sort of comes to the conclusion that, everything was meant to happen this way. And again, it just sort of like reinvigorated his desire to become a villain. And I just can't wait to see what Hunter Zolomon is plotting next. Hopefully Simon Spurrier has some ideas of what happens, or unless it's going to be like a little side story written by somebody else with Hunter coming back. I don't know, but either way, I like the prospect of Hunter Zolomon once again taking his rightful place as Wally West's Reverse Flash proper. Oh yeah, and then shout out to Scott Collins. That artwork's always incredible. One of the best things I've loved about Geoff Johns' Flash run is Scott Collins' art. If it's a Flash book and it's got Scott Collins on art, it's an immediate take my money now scenario.
Shut up and take my money!
Which brings us to the story Between Love and You, which is written by Simon Spurrier, with art by Mike Deodato Jr., colors by Trish Mulvihill, and letters by Hazan Otsami Elru. And this final story refocuses on Wally and Linda as the two are out to dinner, with Linda being happy that Wally is taking some time off of being the Flash just to be with her. But as we soon see, that is far from the case, as Wally is still performing his job at the speed of light before Linda can even blink. However, it's during one of his runs that he becomes trapped in a crazy dimension with figures in black trying to kill him, and even though he manages to get away from them, now floats in a black abyss. Wally, of course, bangs his head as he tries to think and eventually comes up with a solution, realizing he's in an atomic mirror and manages to race through the proper door, shattering the mirror and taking out the culprit, who is the Evan McCullough version of Mirror Master. Now free, Wally rushes to throw Mirror Master in prison and get back to Linda, but along the way is plagued by visions of other dimensions, which he blasts through, not noticing that he created a strong gust on the way back into the restaurant, which caused damage to it, and tipping off Linda that he had been going out. Now disappointed, she walks out of the restaurant, and the story ends with some weird tentacle monster finding Mirror Master and seemingly absorbing him. And I guess you could say this is most likely a mere taste of what we are to expect when Simon Spurrier's Flash run starts in September. As promised, he's going to be going that cosmic horror route, as we, saw things like Wally's visions of these other dimensions and some weird tentacle monster, which does create some intrigue because I like cosmic horror. I like stuff like H.P. Lovecraft. So if we're dealing with a being or maybe multiple beings that are in the vein of like a lot of those creations like, Cthulhu and whatnot, I think it definitely is an interesting concept. I'm just waiting to see what the execution itself is going to be. And there were other interesting elements to the story, such as with Mirror Master and Simon Spurrier's depiction of this now kind of like leveled up version who managed to amp up his tech and become, an even bigger threat. And I'm just kind of wondering if he's gonna apply that to other Flash villains as his run progresses. Because Tentacle Monster seems to have plans for Mirror Master. What they are, I don't know. Why is he also interested in Wally? That we also don't know. 'Tis a prelude, some might say. A prelude of things to come. However, one concern I did have, though, was how he was depicting the relationship between Wally and Linda. I'll admit, I wasn't a fan of Linda walking out of the restaurant angry because Wally was going off, well, being the Flash. I mean, just in context to her own character and experiences, she's easily one of the most understanding superhero spouses in comics. And it just looks like that Simon Spurrier wants to potentially set up some marital conflict between the two, which may not be the case at all, but I mean, in an age where, broken / dysfunctional hero marriages and relationships are more normal than healthy functional ones, it does worry me a bit. Also, it seems like Mike Deodato Jr., whose art is actually incredible, by the way, seems to have forgotten that he's supposed to be drawing Linda Park and not Candace Patton. So in the end, Sai is leaving me with some really intriguing elements on one hand that I want to know more about, but is giving me pause for concern on the other. And collectively, I think The Flash issue 800 is a very fun anthology story with each tale highlighting some of the more interesting aspects about Wally West. And with that, I'm going to give The Flash issue 800 an 8.5 out of 10. So The Flash issue 800, what did you think about this book if you've read it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave your comments in the comment section below.
And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with some friends, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and ring that notification bell for more comic book content. And if you're wondering what to watch next, consider one of these two videos. Alright, take care, have a great day, and as always, stay geeky.